Hi, Writerly Besties, and welcome to the Writing with Anna New podcast, where we talk about all things writing. I am very excited for this episode because we're going to be talking all about how to tackle your first draft. I just want to start off by saying that I am so excited that you have decided to listen to this podcast and that you have decided to start a new book. That is seriously so amazing. It's so awesome, and I'm so excited for you. So firstly, I wanted to start this podcast off by kind of giving you some ideas of what to expect, how to really tackle your first draft in a very kind of systematic, but also very fluid and free sort of way. I definitely think writing your first draft should be something that is experimental and something that does include a little bit of free writing, because free writing is so fun. If you maybe didn't know what free writing is, it's basically where you kind of have an idea but you don't know exactly what happens, and it's essentially like being a pantser. So if you are a pantser just like me, you probably free write and probably don't even notice it. But yeah, you free write, you just write whatever comes to your mind and see where your words take you. I definitely think that should be a huge element of writing your first draft. However, there is a big other part that comes into play when you are thinking about writing your book. And of course, that includes plotting. So there's going to be two parts to this little episode in regards to free writing, in regards to plotting, and also just kind of the in between, what sort of writing kind of approach you should take to writing your first draft. To start off with, I do want to make a huge preface, and that is that writing your first draft, it's gonna suck. I feel like this is an overused expression in the writing community where people are just write your first book, it's gonna suck, who cares, just write it. But there is a huge element of just being uncomfortable with that thought, because I feel like a lot of you guys, including myself, we are all perfectionists and we want to really just write our first draft that is something that is of worth and that something is, what we're proud of, right? And I think there is also an element where we just want to kind of write something that we don't have to rewrite, if you know what I mean. Because when you think about it, if you're going to write a book, you're going to write that book. And the thought of rewriting the whole thing, the thought of getting one little plot, one little element in your book wrong and having to completely refigure your plot, your book, your characters, it's a huge task and it is daunting. It is so overwhelming. So I don't want to say write your first draft. It doesn't matter if it sucks, blah, blah, blah. Just have that in the back of your mind, but still have faith in your own writing and your own planning and your own approach to your first draft. And just have fun with it. Don't be too serious. Don't be I'm going into this knowing my draft's gonna suck. It might not suck, but also, of course, don't go into your books, your first draft saying, this is gonna be the best thing I've ever written. Especially if it's your first book you've ever kind of started. So I just wanted to say that, yeah, your first draft might suck, might not be the best. That's obvious because, of course, you're going to go through edits. You're going to have spelling mistakes. You're going to have plot holes. You're going to have a whole bunch of really random stuff that you're going to have to fix up later. But that's the whole thing of second drafts, third drafts, fourth drafts, and so on. So that as a preface, I just want to say that, and let's go ahead and get on to how to approach your first draft and tackle it very well to the point where it's your best experience ever writing a first draft. Okay, so when you are writing your first draft in regards to free writing and allowing yourself to be experimental with your world, I think that is very important. I like to kind of think of writing my first book or writing my first draft of that world is that, yes, you may have had a plot. Yes, you may have had brainstormed. I mean, you guys probably know, I love to just make a document and call it brain vomit and just write down all the crazy juicy dot points that I just have, and it's so fun. But you have stuff like that, you have plans, you have things in the air, you know, you might have like a whole bunch of like a chapter plan, which is literally amazing, oh my gosh, or you might just have like a whole plotted out, and that's great, that's awesome. And it is definitely a bit difficult because once you get to actually writing that plot, writing those plans that you've already previously like brainstormed, it is a completely different, like, it's a completely different environment, I feel like, for your writing. Because planning and putting it into action, putting those different plot points, those plot beats, and connecting them with sentences and words, it's a bit more difficult. And that's why I feel like plotting is almost like 2D. But when you get to writing, it's like 3D. You're thinking about the characters, the way the setting works, the way your characters are reacting to the setting, what your characters are actually saying, like through their dialogue. Those are things that you might not fully have, planned out in your plot. So that's why I really encourage you to be free in your writing and maybe experiment and maybe try out free writing. I know it might be daunting at times to be like, oh my gosh, like I can't think of things on the spot, but just try your best. What I like to do, and I feel like I say this so much, but what you do is you literally get headphones, you sit down on your bed, you lie down, you close your eyes, and you listen to like rain or brown sound or just like a really cool playlist you made for your book, and just imagine scenes. And that helps you with your description, with the way you can connect different plot beats, plot points, and it just helps so much. So what I'm trying to say is when you do approach your first draft, it's going to be a bit more difficult, but it's going to be a bit more fun. I feel like plotting is a little bit boring because it's just almost like the logistics. It's like the blueprint of your book, right? But as soon as you get to, that blank document, you're free to do whatever you want with those ideas. And I think that's just so fun because, your keyboard is your scribe and you can literally write whatever you want. I mean, of course, like stay like on point and stay on track with your plot, but like still be open to new ideas. And what I mean by that is you may be writing, you may be like, thinking, okay, this needs to happen. Then the characters need to do this. And then this character realizes this, and then the villain comes in and destroys this. But as you're writing, you may get new ideas. And I feel like if you have written books before, I feel like this is so funny, but I don't know if you guys know what I mean, but your characters, I love characters so much. I love my characters. Oh, I write my books for my characters, right? So my characters have their own minds. They have their own ideas, their own hearts, right? And they sometimes get a bit distracted in my book. It's so funny, but it's so true because sometimes your characters literally run away from the plot, and it's so funny. But those sorts of times where your characters are telling you something, or it's essentially like you telling yourself, or like thinking of new ideas, or like maybe the characters do this, blah blah blah. Don't like turn a blind eye. Try your best to incorporate those ideas through your story. I think free writing and being open to new ideas when you are approaching your first book and writing through it, it's such an important thing to be open, to be free, to accept those ideas and allow them to bloom within your mind. I think it's just so fun, and it's just such a great way to see your own creativity grow and your own story grow as well as you write your book. Because there's some things you can't imagine, there's some things you can't really figure out, there's some things that you just can't really like put into words until you write it and until you get to it in your actual physical manuscript. And in those times, it may be very difficult to kind of join ideas, to explain a setting, to explain a feeling a character is feeling. But sometimes it's better just to relax, just to kind of take a step back and think of new ideas, think of new ways to express these things. And as I said, it may be daunting, it may be harder, but of course it is more exciting than plotting a really boring book. Anyways, I feel like plotting is so terrible. That's just me. I'm just being biased because I hate plotting. But writing, free writing is so good. So if you are a plotter, might be a bit harder, but just try it, please, please, please. Okay, so the next part of this episode, I just wanna link this. Okay, so it's very good to free write, but free writing only gets you so far. I can tell you from experience, I have written, I can't even count on my fingers. I've written so many books and I've stopped midway. The whole thing about approaching your first draft is not getting stuck. I feel like it's just a constant marathon, just trying to get to the end. And especially just past the halfway point / just before the great climax in your story, that's where a lot of people get stuck. That's where a lot of people give up. And it's so difficult sometimes because when you are getting to that point in your book and you're writing, this first draft, and of course you haven't actually gotten there yet, so you don't know, there's no full circle yet. It's just like a circle and it's stopping and it's losing momentum. And it's almost like ironic, right? Because that is the part of your book where you should be getting excited, where the plot is like pacing up, it's like getting ramped up, it's like everything's like at stake, and that's where you should be excited, and that's where you want to like try to finish your book really quickly. But that's actually when you stop. And that's happened to me so many times, and I really hope that you guys can relate. It's essentially just the tipping point, and it's a very big test on your plotting, your planning beforehand, and that's why I say, free writing only gets you so far. And it's also a big test of your own passion for your story, your own faith in your idea, and just your, what's that word? I'm trying to think of it. It's like, it's part of a song that Sia has sung. I'm trying to remember it. It's like when you're running and stamina. That's right. If you have stamina, okay. You're writing stamina. And I just think that's so important. And it's so difficult. So there's so much more than to just plotting. There is actually your own faith in your idea. It's actually your own writing stamina and your writing just like belief in yourself. And it's seriously so hard. I definitely do want to do an episode where I talk about how to have self-belief as a writer and confidence in your own ideas and your own books. But yeah, what I'm trying to say is plotting can only get you so far, like free writing. So there's a few elements to this. We kind of talked about free writing, how it's really good to get ideas, how it's really good just to be open to new things, to really see where your story goes and not rely too much on your plotting plan. 2, plotting is very good, but there is an extent to it where your ideas, like, yeah, you might have an idea, maybe you even have it like fully plotted out in regards to like the way your climax kind of comes and goes. But sometimes when you get to that point in your book, it doesn't matter if you have a good plan. It just matters if you have enough faith in your book. So that's the third thing, having faith in your own book, your own ideas, your own writing, in order to finish that draft. Because I kind of, titled this episode, how to tackle your first draft, how to prepare for it, how to get through it. But I feel like starting is very easy sometimes, and the hardest thing is finishing a book. That's why I feel like finishing a book is such a big thing. It's such a huge look, I'm supposed to be a writer, but I cannot talk. The biggest thing you've ever like really achieved, right? So yeah, it's just a whole bunch of different things, and it's really hard to put this all in one episode, but I hope I can give you a few tips to really get past that pushing point where you do feel like you're going to give up on your idea. And of course, this can happen whenever you are writing your book. Sometimes you just sit like in your desk, you sit on your chair, you have your manuscript open, and you just think about this idea. Because technically it's not a book yet. Technically, you haven't really shown yourself truly that you are committed to this book because you haven't finished it yet and you're not working on it. So this book is technically still up in the air for you. And even though you might think like, this is the book of my heart, this is the book that I want to write, this is the book I'm going to finish, there is still an element of doubt within your mind. And this writing doubt is extremely dangerous, and it can get you into a writing slump, and it can get you into, an episode where you can't physically write and you just lose faith in yourself. And I think the most important part is remembering that you are writing because you love to write. I think I did do an episode where I talked about something like that. My brain's a bit foggy at the moment, but I think it's just so important just to remember that this idea is special. Your idea for your book is amazing. It's special. It's fully like a part of you. It's a part of your heart, and it's worth being told. I feel like sometimes we shelve books, we don't finish them, we give up on them because we don't feel like it's the right time to write them. We don't feel like, just writing it. We don't like the characters in it. We don't like the way we started the book, so we don't want to start it again. Those are things that don't even relate to not finishing that book. I feel like as long as you just finish that book, as long as you just write that sentence, the end, even if you kind of skip over things, even if you have little plot beats that you haven't figured out yet and you've just like put a space in your manuscript, you can still finish a book because those things will be edited throughout those later drafts. So very, very important. You can still leave gaps in your first draft. That's the first draft, right? And I think coming back to what I kind of said, sorry if you can hear my budgies in the background, but coming back to what I said before about your first draft, it's gonna suck. I don't like that connotation. I don't like the word suck. It just, I don't really like it. So don't say that. Instead, say that your first draft isn't going to be perfect. Because by saying your first draft's going to suck, it's almost saying that your idea sucks, right? I hate that, guys. Your book doesn't suck. Not even your first draft. You guys, I feel like just say that it isn't perfect. And nothing is ever perfect, right? So just remember that free writing can only get you so far, but definitely try it. Plotting is great, but just try to have faith in yourself, in your plot, and your planning, in your idea as well. There's just so many elements I wanted to talk about in this video, in this podcast, in this episode, but I feel like we've run out of time, and I'm sure you guys are probably very, 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 distressed, excited, very bored of my voice. I don't know. I just hope I helped you a little bit in your progression, in your writing journey, just to try your best to write that first draft and just start. So yeah, even though I didn't really talk about planning or prepping for your first draft, I literally was talking about how to write your first draft. So yeah. Sorry if I changed the title of this episode, but yeah, I really hope this helped. Again, your story doesn't suck. It's just imperfect and it will get better. I promise you. I really wish you guys luck in all of your projects, and I really, really hope that you just continue to finish that first draft. Just get it done, and then you can finally write the end, and then you can finally tell people you wrote your first book, you wrote a book. And it's just so exciting, and I love it. I love you guys so, so much. I really hope to see you in my next episode. If you are enjoying my podcast so far, I'd really appreciate it if you come over to my channel and maybe, just leave me a little comment. That would be great. Anyways, I love you guys with all of my heart, and I really, really hope to see you in my next podcast. Anyways, I hope to see you later, and as always, keep writing. Bye bye.